Ken Trahan along with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. LSU Tigers first up on the docket this week because they play Thanksgiving night against the Texas A&M Aggies. The game is at College Station. Les Miles 2-0 against Texas A&M since they entered the SEC, and I don't know what to make of this game. I think it's a game for pride. It's two teams that are playing that really have no attainable goals other than positioning themselves for another mid-level to minor bowl game. And, Lenny, I think it's an attitude game. It's all about who wants to play.
I agree, and it will be interesting to see, who gets their team ready to play best. A&M, first thing you think of besides guys like Johnny Football and things like that, tradition, and playing on Thanksgiving night is something that's very important to them. With, what kind of motivation, what kind of approach does Les Miles and LSU take in this? I mean, I think it's a grand opportunity to be able to play in a standalone college football situation as it is on Thanksgiving night. There's actually one other game on the card, and there's an NFL game, but pretty much a standalone situation where you don't have 100 games going on any given Saturday, and people will be, finishing up their Thanksgiving dinner and settling in, watching more football. And what kind of effort are you going to go out there and put forth? And what are you going to do to redeem yourself after the effort you put forth against Arkansas, where you had the worst offensive performance in 4 decades in terms of yards gained? So I think there will be some pride on the LSU side. Will there be more pride on the A&M side to make that good showing in front of the home folks on Thanksgiving night? The seniors, the last time they'll play in Kyle Field. So I think this is a game that really could come down to the very end. And we've seen some, on occasion this year, some close LSU games. You look at Florida, you look at Alabama, and it's about, who can make the most plays, or as Drew Brees said Monday night, who makes the fewest mistakes perhaps that wins this game.
Well, we'll find out on Thanksgiving night. Of course, Tulane has a week off. They'll close out the following weekend at home against Temple at Yulman Stadium, coming off of another disappointing loss at East Carolina in which they scored only 6 points. It is a high school football weekend galore, semifinals or quarterfinals, depending on if you're a select or an unselect school or a private or a public school, to be perfectly honest with you. So we look forward to that, and we can promote the fact that we will have Jesuit and Rummel on SportsNola.com live Saturday night, 6 p.m. You want to tune in and watch it anywhere in the world on SportsNola.com, Jesuit Rummel Saturday night at 6. Game will also be on radio on ESPN 100.3 FM. And then on Friday night, as part of the original Prep Football Report, we'll have Brother Martin John Curtis from Tad Gormley Stadium at 7. And you can hear that on WGSO 990 AM as part of the original. It's going to be a big weekend of high school football. Check out our preview on the high school weekend of football here at SportsNola.com. The New Orleans Saints, coming off of a 3-game sweep at home, being swept rather than sweeping, will try to sweep that aside and sweep the Steelers in Pittsburgh, although that looks like a tall task.
It does, and the one thing you're always concerned about, well, first of all, you got a lot to be concerned about with the Saints team right now, having lost 3 in a row at home, the proverbial hat trick. Probably there were a couple of things you looked at schedule-wise, and that is you knew you were going to play some potential cold weather games when you knew who your opponents were going to be. Well, you got Pittsburgh on the last day of November, and then 2 weeks after that, you got Chicago on a Monday night. And while I think this offense, I don't want to say exercised demons, but still kind of got that gorilla off its back in terms of what it can do in potentially colder, inclement weather by winning that playoff game in Philadelphia last year. Still, can they go out and perform at a reasonably high level? And they put up big numbers against Baltimore, just didn't necessarily put enough points on the scoreboard, I guess. Can they do that in Pittsburgh against a pretty good defense? And then 2 weeks down the road, we'll be talking about the Chicago game. But that's the big concern to me is about the weather and how they handle that. And by the way, there's 60% chance of rain in the early forecast on Sunday.
New Orleans Pelicans hit the road. They played on Tuesday night against Sacramento at home, just a 1-game homestand. Then they go on the road again, and they'll play Friday and Saturday on the road. And having to go without Eric Gordon with a shoulder separation, he's out for a while, and they are moving people around. As a result, Tyreek Evans sliding into that 2-guard slot, and Darius Miller getting a chance to start at the 3. That's a first for him, and this bench has lacked overall depth, so now you'll find out more about whether or not they can develop depth.
You have to see here. That's certainly, Evans was a natural move. Giving Darius Miller a shot to move into that starting spot in the rotation. Let's see how how that works itself out. The good news is they're headed east as opposed to west, and West teams playing those teams from the Eastern Conference have done pretty well so far this year. As you might expect, the West is a stronger league or a stronger conference. So trip to Atlanta, trip to Washington before they make it back to New Orleans, and they're in the midst of a stretch right now, 9 road games out of 11. So held their own the first part from the road perspective, going 2-2 on the West Coast last week. Let's see what they can do this Thanksgiving weekend.
Look forward to a big weekend of sports. We hope you'll check it all out here at sportsnola.com with all kinds of game stories and opinion pieces and beyond, all the information you can want. You'll find it at sportsnola.com. And we want to wish each and every one of you a very happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with family. Be blessed. Enjoy everything you have. Don't eat too much, though.
No, try not to do that. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and to all of our viewers and readers out there on sportsnola.com.
That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by 32 locations of First NBC Bank all around the metro area, so check them out. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of sportsnola.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Happy Thanksgiving, one and all, and God bless you.